Now, many of those camped at Dale Farm are not travellers themselves or residents, but protesters who've moved to the site to give them their support. And as well as bringing manpower, they've also brought with them tactics and strategies honed at other demonstrations, some of them designed to attract media attention. Well, with me now are Dave King, a former Metropolitan Police Sergeant who specialised in public order, and Hamish Campbell, an activist and filmmaker. Welcome to you both. Hamish, you go around and you film protests. What do you do with that when you film?
We tell stories from, we actually train people to tell their own stories. So we tell stories from the grassroots, from people, we facilitate people telling their own stories so their voices can come out, unmediated voices.
Right, I see. So are you sympathetic with the Dale protests?
Dale Farm, yes, I know many of the people down there. We've, this is a long history of protests. A lot of the people there came out of the climate camp movement. So, it's people standing up for what they believe is right and using these protest tactics to try and achieve social change.
And do you think they are, they are winning in that propaganda war, if you like?
Well, I'm not sure it's a propaganda war. They're actually trying to stop an eviction. They're quite honestly trying to stop it, a lot of them, I think, these, people do direct action to actually try and stop things happening. And I think it's really important. It's a very empowering, very joyful thing to do.
Dave King, I mean, they're obviously making it difficult for the police and bailiffs, aren't they, succeeding in that?
Yeah, they are. The tactics have been used on a number of occasions, evictions. They're all well tried and proven tactics. If you work at height, it does cause a problem for the police, as you already mentioned. The only real safe way of dealing with it is by using a hoist or a cherry picker so that you can take out the individual. So it is quite a challenging operation for the police and the High Court enforcement officers.
And the problem, of course, is that in a sense, it's a game of chicken because nobody wants anyone to get hurt, or if someone gets hurt, the protester gets hurt, that'd be bad for the police and vice versa.
Clearly. Nobody wants anyone to get hurt in these operations. The police are there to make sure that people are safe. They are fully bound by the health and safety legislation, and so they are keen that nobody gets hurt, their officers or any of the people they're trying to evict.
Yeah, Hamish Campbell, I mean, that is clearly designed to engender, a dangerous situation. It wouldn't be fun if anyone fell off that.
You would find actually that these people are trained climbers. They've got harnesses, they've got equipment, they've got all the food and supplies.
Sort of
it's designed. Actually, if you go up it, you'll find it's very solid. I've been up some of these tripods. They're very well made, and it's a strategy going back to the 1990s.
But you've also got people putting nooses around their neck and saying.
I've filmed that many times, and there's always a safety person there. I believe in Dale Farm, the police have actually been removing the safety people, which actually is a dangerous thing to do because that person's there for a reason.
How much of what the protesters, the activists there are doing is about trying to defend Dale Farm, and how much of it is staged for images? We've got that very striking image today of a woman holding a crucifix in front of a burning caravan. How much of that is planned?
I think that these people who are involved in this are very passionate about what they're doing. I think they're very creative people, they're very good people, and this creativity pours out and it creates situations which the media loves. This is why these very dramatic, strong images come out of it. So I think it's just people enjoying protest, people trying to make the world a better place. It's very attractive to media.
And you talked about them enjoying protests. I just wonder how many of them are actually very sympathetic and very involved in the plight of the travellers, or are there just to protest for protesting's sake?
I think a lot of them live quite homeless lives. They kind of, a lot of them come from protest camps, and this is another protest camp. These people are trying to save a way of life which they actually relate to because it's the way they live, a lot of them.
Dave King, that makes things difficult for the police, doesn't it? Because these are people with great experience who know exactly how to play this, and they know what they can and can't do. They know the health and safety rules. They know how to make it as hard as possible for police to get in. Yeah,
that's correct, they do. And they've learned it over a number of years, and they know that the police will always err on the side of safety. And they'll always look for the media opportunities you've already mentioned, but there's clearly an effort there. These kind of protests, the beauty of these kind of protests for the protester is that with very relatively small numbers, you can actually make a significant impact on the operation because they're at height and it's difficult for the police to deal with.
I have to disagree to a certain extent with the police respect for health and safety. I made the film campaign about the protest at Kingsnorth, where actually the police illegally searched violently thousands of people And then actually they stood up in Parliament and said 70 policemen were injured by the protesters. 2 years later it came out that was diarrhoea and bee sting. Not a single policeman was injured and all the searches were illegal and they paid compensation. So I'd be very wary about, you know, there is a propaganda war going on here.
It is true that claims are made by the protesters which are not necessarily true. For example, we saw that protester there saying, oh, you're going to put people on the side of the road, you're going to put people in car parks. The council have actually offered alternative accommodation to all the people they're evicting, so that's not true, is it? You know, I think the truth comes out a number of years after the event. At the moment, there's a propaganda battle, and that's propaganda from one side, there's propaganda from another side, and the truth comes out later. No, it'd be nice if it actually came out now. Well, no, but actually the truth that the council have made an offer of alternative accommodation, I don't think that is actually disputed, is it?
I think people there are disputing it. I don't have the details, but I think if you did a search on open social media, you'd find many diversities of voices. And have a look on our project, Vision on TV, and you'll find people there telling their side of the story. And actually, you'll find there's views here which disagree.
I mean, just look at that poll. Now, obviously, that's a straw poll. That's not scientific. But a lot of people are fed up with these protesters. They don't think that they necessarily represent the people there. They think they're out for a good scrap, and as you said yourself, an artistic demonstration.
A lot of in the suffragettes. Yeah. A lot of people were upset with suffragettes. Women now have to vote. A lot in South Africa.
What is this
Margaret Thatcher said that Nelson Mandela was a terrorist.
No.
And
what is
now
the protest about? You can say the suffragettes were about votes for women. You can say that Nelson Mandela was about black majority rule in South Africa. What can you actually say this protest is about?
Tesco's can get retrospective planning permission. A bunch of Irish travellers cannot. Why not?
Because most people, to build houses, everyone else in this country can't get retrospective planning permission.
Large corporations can. Why can't a group of people who are disadvantaged?
Retrospective planning permission. Extraordinary kind of legalistic thing to do, in the exception that you've broken the rule, right? The law has been broken.
I don't think they have much choice but to break the law, because they went through the process and they failed to get through the process.
They have an absolute choice about breaking the law. They choose to turn up.
Protesters. Well, it's their lifestyle they're defending. I think they're defending a very valid, very interesting lifestyle.
They're not defending their own lifestyle. They're defending someone else's lifestyle.
It's a shared lifestyle.
Right, OK. David, how much would this operation cost, do you reckon, and who would pay typically in this situation?
That's a hugely difficult question. Clearly there's been all kinds of figures about the lead up to this operation. I honestly wouldn't like to comment. A considerable amount of money.
We're talking about sort of £18 million, aren't we, before we even got to today, divided between the police and also between the council. I mean, that's a huge sum of money at a time.
It is.
When everyone's having to make cuts.
So why are we spending that money? Why don't you? This is a disadvantaged group who has nowhere else to go.
The reason why we spend that money is because we live in a society where most people respect the law.
They try to respect the law, but the law does not respect them. That's
not respecting the law, is it?
Climate camp, where these people, thousands of people, were illegally searched, and actually we went up to policemen and said, "Excuse me, what you're doing is illegal." That if you say that and say, "I do not want to be searched," they will actually grab hold of it and do you a bit of violence.
Has come up, which is not going on here, I don't think. But do the police search people illegally?
They're certainly not searching anyone on this day, and as a general rule, no.
All right. Now, let's just talk about the practicalities of this. What is likely to happen here? We've got people up in a cherry picker. We've got this scaffold that's been built with protesters on. It's obviously a tricky situation where people could fall. I mean, what's going to happen?
They'll go up and speak to them to start with, and ask them if they're
doing that most of the morning.
Well, they'll go up and speak face to face with them now from the cherry picker and ask them to come off of the scaffolding. If they don't, then they will have to deal with each individual. You'll have to deal with one at a time, effectively, and take them off of the scaffolding into the cherry picker, deck down to the ground.
What's the priority? Is it getting them off the scaffolding, or is it getting rid of the protesters who are on the ground first? If you were there, Dave, where would you be putting your efforts?
I mean, the whole thing has to be cleared. One of the big challenges for the police and the enforcement officers on this event, of course, is that unusually not the whole site is going to be emptied. only part of the site. So there are going to be some people who are perfectly lawfully and legitimately staying on the site, and that itself is a challenge for the police to identify who can stay and who can go.
Hamish, what do you think is going to happen?
I think the protesters will hold out for a few days. It will be a big media circus, and I think, as with the 1990s road protest, you lose the battles, but you win the war.
What is the
and I think the situation about travellers will soften because of these people standing up for their rights.
What is the legality? Perhaps we should even get some agreement here on this. What is the legality of the situation? I mean, suppose those police were to reach out and seek to arrest or I don't know, put handcuffs on people. I mean, can they do that? Is that legal?
They can use reasonable force to enforce the High Court writ. So, depending on what they're confronted with, would depend how much force they would use.
We've got this obstacle.
Yeah.
So, people who've built that obstacle or on it, would they be breaking the law, Hamish? Would it?
They're just staying put. And it depends on the legal situation.
No, I'm just asking you because you were talking about searching being illegal. I mean, would it be illegal if I mean, no one wants anyone to get hurt, but if they, as it were, could grab them, would that be legal in this circumstance? It
depends how they resisted.
Yeah, they've got a legal power to remove those people from the site. That's given by the High Court writ, and they can use reasonable force to execute that writ, and that. So they can lay hands on people. Often with these events, and I've dealt with a number in the past, when you actually get to the point of removing an individual from a structure, often they just come with you. I'm not saying they will in this case, but often they do.
Yeah, and